Devil May Cry. My little leap of faith excursion into this somewhat obscure and notoriously hardcore franchise last July was based entirely on the Devil May Cry 5 reveal trailer at E3, which showcased so much energy, so much pizzazz, so much confidence in its glorious bombast that I couldn't just not play every game in the series to prepare myself for an experience that, by all visual evidence, would be one for the history books. And what do I think now that I've finally had the opportunity to sink my teeth into the game I've been waiting for with bated breath for 8 months? The game that most hardcore fans have been waiting for 11 years? I mean, really, was there ever a chance for it to disappoint? I'll be brief. If you're looking for a simple should I or shouldn't I on buying this roller coaster of a game, the answer is yes. It's worth the asking price. DMC is back, baby, and it's better than it ever was. Let's talk about it. I'll tell you what, going back to DMC 3 after riding this rodeo feels downright sluggish. Now, it shouldn't be a surprise that I'm no expert when it comes to the minute details of Devil May Cry combat. I played all 6 games a combined total of 80 hours or so, which ain't a small amount of time, but by no means is it enough to have mastered the mechanics and ascend to DMC godhood like some people out there. So I can't exactly compare the individual frames of each animation and tell you how well they facilitate 100-hit stun-lock combos, but I can tell you that DMC 5, from my simple-minded point of view, just feels better than its predecessors. There was far less times that I intended to pull off something cool and wasn't able to because of awkward timing required for certain combos or strange camera placement. The level design has been streamlined, no longer halting the pace to force you to solve some tedious puzzles. Now it's all action all the way. Even something as subtle as the secret missions have been improved, now requiring that you correctly line up a diagram to access them, which makes the simple act of discovering the secret more interactive and interesting. They didn't need to do this, but they did. And of course the game looks beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. It really shows us the limits of the RE engine, after the recent Resident Evil games took place in mostly cramped interior spaces. But boy, this shows us what Capcom is truly capable of, graphically speaking. Well, with all the strikingly detailed environments and flashy special effects. They're still reusing the friggin' mannequins from RE7 though, still using them. However, it's not just the little things that have been improved. If you'll recall my DMC4 review, I said that playing as Nero got unbearably boring very quickly because of his lack in variety in weapons, moves, and enemies to fight. However, I'm glad to report that Nero is a lot more fun to play as now. Nero's been through a rough spot since we last saw him. Not only has he had photorealistic facial reconstruction surgery because of his low self-esteem, probably because someone called him deadweight or something, I don't know.
You hear what I said, you dumb one on deadweight? You're gonna die!
But the doctor only accepts demon-themed appendages as payment, so now our wayward hero has become addicted to prosthetic arm swapping, which has sadly become an epidemic in the world of video game characters. Tragic victims including Adam Jensen, Big Boss, and that one lady from the Battlefield 5 trailer. That's okay though, because it turns out that having a large variety of unique robotic arms to choose from makes things a lot more interesting in terms of offensive options, rather than in DMC4 where the B button was dedicated to picking up enemies and flinging them around, which while cool only ever played out in a single way on each enemy type. Now each arm has a different use and context under which it's most useful. Only problem is that they're a tad fragile, breaking if you get hit in the middle of using one, or you can choose to go kamikaze style and sacrifice your arm to create an explosion and get out of a tight spot. At first I was frustrated that you can't switch to whatever arm you want that's in your loadout at will, instead having to get rid of the ones at the front of the line before using the ones at the back, but it being this way makes you have to plan your loadout more carefully, as well as consider which ones you'll be able to pick up in the mission itself, as it seems that Nico, Nero's arm dealer and horrible enabler, has left her merchandise all over the levels like little Easter eggs, probably just to get him even more hooked on the stuff. It also makes sacrificing your favorite arm to get out of a sticky situation a little more painful because the last one you picked up is the pasta breaker, and the pasta breaker friggin' sucks.
You like pasta, right? Try this baby on for size.
Now let's talk about Dante in this game.
Guess I get to see it with my own eyes.
Simply put, he's better than ever. Even more weapons, both melee and projectile, with even greater variety in movesets that you can switch to at any time, as well as the 4 classic styles, means that he's definitely the most complex to master, something I'm miles away from doing. He's still got that lovable, cocky personality he's had since the beginning,
Is it Halloween already?
but with a twinge of boredom and levity, which reflects just how long he's been doing this and just how overpowered he's become. This guy's been killing demons as a day job for decades now, and despite him being the best there is, can't manage to keep the lights on because he spends 99% of his income on pizza, ice cream, and paying off the incredible amounts of debt that's accumulated from Morrison throttling the price of rent and frivolous service fees for finding him jobs that pay him just barely enough to be able to pay the monthly minimum before taxes and utilities. But Dante is too depressed to realize that he's being abused by who should be his most trusted business associate and friend, and only finds solace in murdering countless demons to avenge his dead mother and brother even after finally killing the one who did it to him, because it turns out the revenge never fully satisfies. So his life is one of bitterness and regret, squeezing any amount of dopamine he can out of countless pepperoni pizzas and strawberry sundaes. Dang, that's messed up! But enough about the mainstays, let's talk about the new guy, V. He's another aspect of the story I was worried would be cringe-inducing, but he's handled surprisingly well. His character really is the mysterious one, and he's a key element of the plot, which frankly is way better than it deserves to be. Sadly though, he's my least favorite character in terms of gameplay. He's not bad by any stretch of the imagination, but I never preferred playing him over Dante or Nero. In my opinion, he just kinda serves as a buffer between the other 2 playable characters to pace things out better, and hey, that's fine. I could play as V for hours on end and not get bored, unlike DMC4 Nero. Anyways, his thing is standing back and commanding his for-real pets to kick some butt in the distance. One of those pets being the bane of my existence in Devil May Cry 1, and the other being a fairly balanced boss fight, all things considered. Way better than Nightmare. I frickin' hate Nightmare. Nightmare frickin' sucks. Oh, and then there's this guy. Wait, hold on. Wait, no. Listen here, buddy, I thought I told you to never show your face around here again. I'm gonna friggin' slap you silly. My main problem with V is that his fighting style lends itself a little too well to button mashing, because it's hard to keep track of him, Griffin, and Shadow all at once. So it ends up being easier and still effective to just mash the X and Y buttons over and over while standing back away from the action. Granted, I'll probably get better at being stylish with him as I play the game more, but those are just my initial thoughts on the gameplay he offers. Plus, I'll give him plenty of credit for being pretty unique for the series in terms of writing, design, and gameplay. Overall, I'm finding it pretty difficult to conjure up things to complain about. I mean, sure, maybe a few petty things like the fact that we don't get to see Kyrie in all the fancy photorealistic looking graphics, or maybe the fact that there's only one Michael Jackson dance sequence, or how you aren't able to play any mission as any character, or how you can't play as Lady, Trish, or Virgil whatsoever, or let me think for a minute. Oh yeah, there's microtransactions in the game. That's something to complain about. Yes, indeed, you can buy red orbs for a pretty penny, all the way up to a million other things for 20 bucks, like you'll ever need that many. You know how many times the microtransactions interrupted my experience? Here's a hint. After I beat the game, I was snooping around the main menu and discovered, oh, there's microtransactions in this game. That's interesting, but I sure don't care. Honestly though, I do think it's a little bit scummy to lock away cool extras like alternate character costumes, battle tracks from previous games, and the hilarious work-in-progress live-action cutscenes behind the deluxe edition of the game. But hey, that's just kinda how games work these days, unfortunately. I do think those cool extras are worth the price tag, even though they really should have been included with the standard edition. But all things considered, DMC5 is a very complete product, even down to the surprisingly entertaining and fleshed-out glossary entries for all the enemies and characters. Definitely worth reading. That's a feature I haven't appreciated or even really noticed since DMC1. But now it's time to answer that question. The question to end all DMC questions. Is this game as good as Devil May Cry 3? No. It's even better. And this really shouldn't be a surprise to anyone but the most stalwart of DMC3 fanboys. Face it, friends, there's 14 years worth of progress being showcased here. I mean, it's certainly impressive that DMC managed to stay undefeated as heavyweight action game champion for this long, but I'd say it's high time for it to be dethroned, and who is more worthy to inherit such a title than its newer, beefier love child, made by the same inspired, passionate team? But JaBoc, I hear you say, because the voices in my head are always asking questions. What about the story? Is the story really better than Devil May Cry 3's? Well, that's a bit trickier to answer, because they're both going for something different. DMC3 is a very archetypal hero's journey story that's incredibly efficient with how it uses its small cast of characters to convey its themes, and DMC5 is more like an all-out ensemble action movie where all of your favorite characters somehow get just the right amount of screen time. Except Kyrie, of course, because she just gets to be a freaking phone call cameo.
Thanks. I guess that's all I needed to hear.
But anyways, it's like asking if I'd rather watch Star Wars A New Hope or Avengers Infinity War. It depends on the day of the week and whether the sun's shining, so I don't think they're all that comparable. But I do love how DMC5 wraps up a lot of loose ends from the previous games. Even a character exclusive to the somewhat obscure anime series from 2007 gets some closure.
Devil May Cry.
Dante!
Except for DMC2, of course, because Itsuno regrets that game's existence as much as the rest of us, and acknowledging it ever happened would be encouraging people to go play it again, which is something nobody should ever do. There's just so much energy and love put into each and every scene. Nero can't just walk up to a statue and access the shop. Oh no. There has to be a dedicated, unique cutscene each time he does it, and the shop can't just be a still image. That would be a social faux pas. It's gotta have its own bumpin' theme song with a lovingly rendered lady friend to take your robot arm off the rack for you. Simply put, this game is inspiring. This is what a single-player game in 2019 can be. This and Resident Evil 2 have resealed Capcom as the king of classic IPs. Honestly, I don't even know how you beat this. Might as well give up, game developers, cause it don't get better than that. Hold on, whoa. Is that Ninja Dark Souls with a grappling hook? Never mind. This is Game of the Year now.
Me too, kid.